Hi, everyone. This is Sarah Russell, and today I would like to talk about a very common topic that comes up in my mentoring work with colleagues that I mentor, which is how to be the boss that you've always wanted. A lot of the time in in our field, people are very focused on doing their work really well, on marketing themselves, on kind of, getting people to come and seek out services, but they forget how important it is to treat oneself equitably. It might sound a little weird, but when you are self-employed and you're a sole proprietor or or the owner of a very small business that only has maybe a couple of employees, you it's really easy to get overworked. It's really easy to go down the road of I'm just going to work, work, work. I'm going to produce, 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 and you end up not resting enough, not taking care of yourself, and even not compensating yourself adequately. So sometimes this can, not having a mindset in place of how to be a good boss for yourself can stop you from launching a successful business or getting very far with it. So it might remain almost like a hobby operation or a very like small, very part-time operation, or you may do the complete opposite. You might be very successful from the point of view of the number of hours you work, the number of clients you have, but you're just really headed towards burnout. So um, so how do you find that balance? How do you be the boss that you've always wanted, in other words? And I'm going to cover a few different aspects of this topic, not in an exhaustive way, and hopefully not in an exhausting way either. I'm going to try to be succinct and concise, which is not really a talent of mine. I tend to babble, so pardon me if I do, but I'm going to try not to. Um, the first thing that I'm going to talk about is work-life balance, which is incredibly important and really hard when you're running your own business. Um, the second is equitable remuneration. So, making sure that you're compensating yourself adequately. Um, the third point that I want to talk about is kind and fair self-evaluation. And, and the fourth is a growth and development opportunities. So let's just start by talking about how important work-life balance is when you are self-employed or a solopreneur. Um, when you run a business, you still need to rest. Your personal needs and your family's needs, if you have a family, they don't just disappear. Um, I know how easy it is to overwork. Uh, I come from a family where we end up tending to work too much, and sometimes it's a little bit of a refuge for me. Um, so escaping from whatever else might be going on out there in the world. Um, that can be kind of one of my go-tos. So it's one of the things that I've had to teach myself and study and just develop habits to kind of force myself to have a good work-life balance so I can have a good quality of life and my family can enjoy me and I can enjoy my family in return. Um, so how do you do that? Essentially, you need to limit the number of hours that you work. Um, one of the things that I do, I've talked before, if you watched any number of my mentoring videos, you may have heard me talk about the time tracker that I use. It is called Rescue Time. I like it a lot, and nobody's paying me to say that. So I use it to track the amount of time that I spend on various activities when I'm on my computer. I also, one of the things that really helps me with my work-life balance, and this may not be appropriate for you, but it is really helpful for me and very aligned with who I am as an individual. I don't have a smartphone. I don't have tablets. The only thing that I use for work is my computer. I have a remote business. So if you have an in-person practice, you may just be doing a lot of your work in person. And in that case, you're going to need to sort of, and ending hours for your workday. When I had an in-person small business in Berkeley doing nutritional therapy, um, I had hours where I would go into the office and a time when I would come home, and my computer actually lived in my office. I didn't even have internet. That's that's how I define my work-life balance. It got a little bit sketchier when I moved to Italy and actually switched my work model to a fully remote practice. It was really, really hard to reestablish a sense of work-life balance because all of a sudden I had to have internet at home. Yeah, it took me like 3 months to get it set up, maybe four. I don't remember from when we moved to our house. So it was crazy. Like I used a lot of Wi-Fi connections and in cafes and in public spaces at the beginning. And once I had internet at home, I was working from home, and I had to teach myself how to run my days so that I had structure, so that there was a start and end time to my days, and I wasn't spending my entire evenings and into the night um, checking emails. The other issue that I've had to deal with, which you may or may not have to deal with in your own practice, is my practice is really international. And many of my clients, in fact, more than half of my clients, are at least 6 hours away from me in terms of time zones. So that is a challenge for me. That is, I think, the biggest challenge for me in terms of my work-life balance. And I've had to, on numerous occasions, had to like reassess that piece of it. What are my work hours going to be? And that can change in terms of what's going on with where I'm working, who else might be in that space, and all of that. So I've gone all the way from working um, after my child goes to bed late at night, which is not ideal. I've done that short term, like during winter break and things like that from school when I don't have another option. But that is definitely not ideal. And I actually really like sleeping at night. Um, and nonetheless, sometimes you have to be a little bit creative if you need continuity. I think next year I'm just going to take a few weeks off around Christmas time, and that will be really nice. Um, that brings me to the next point, which is remuneration. So, making sure that you're being adequately compensated for your time and your work. So, really understanding, not just in terms of the services that you're delivering and what those services are worth in terms of the cost that you're charging your clients, but how many hours are you working total per week? Are you managing your time well? Are you setting good boundaries around your start and end time so that the amount of money that you're earning per week is commensurate with the number of hours that you're putting in? And so how you find that out is you track the total number of your work hours, not just the time that you're spending face to face with clients, but when you start and when you end, the whole work day, all work week long. Um, your total number of hours per week that you're working, which should not be more, much more than 40. Um, all your hours from start to finish, everything that you do for your work should not be much more than 40 hours a week. Let me repeat that. It's okay if it's less. Really important. Um, so um, if you're working 40 hours a week and you're making $1,600 a week, um, that means that you're making what, $40 an hour. Is that okay for you, in terms of like what your family's financial needs are, what your expectations are for what is a good compensation for you? If the answer is no, that's not enough, or if the number is a lot lower, then you need to either become more efficient at managing your time so that you're spending fewer hours making the same amount of money, or you need to raise your fees so that you're making more money in the same amount of time. You can't stay stuck in an unsatisfactory situation, because that just means you're going to end up working 50 or 60 hours a week to make enough money to make ends meet. That is not acceptable. That is not the kind of boss that you should be to yourself. If you work for someone else, would you allow them to make you work 40 to 50, I'm sorry, 50 to 60 hours a week? I hope not. Don't don't let yourself do that to yourself either. You should give yourself good accountability and structure when you are self-employed, but you should not hustle, and like hustle yourself into burnout. Very poor thing to do. And I have definitely headed in that direction. So I'm talking from experience, and I'm not being judgmental of anybody there, because I speak with compassion to my former self and to anybody out there who's struggling. So I get it. It's easy to do. Like it's normal, it's common, and it's for many of us something that we go through as self-employed individuals. But it's definitely not where you want to hang out, and it should not be your default mode. Um, the the next thing I want to talk about is just to be kind and fair when you are assessing yourself or evaluating yourself. Like, check in with yourself on how you're doing. You can do self-assessments at the end of each month. Um, the more honest you are with yourself in terms of like specific areas that you're working on as a professional, like your time management and the amount of income that you're bringing in, and the way that you're communicating with your clients, and your clients outcomes, and your client just like how you're serving people. um, so different areas of your work, you should have a system to sort of like self-assess, or kind of like grade yourself in those areas. It doesn't have to be formal, but it certainly, you should have some kind of a system in place for being somewhat objective, and giving yourself feedback and setting goals and action steps in terms of, what you're going to do to improve the areas that you need improvement on. So without beating yourself up, but in a productive, constructive way. Because, when we are working for an employer, they are conducting some kind of a review for us. When we are working for ourselves, our long-term success is going to depend on how effective we are. It's not the only thing, of course, but part of our success in the long term is going to depend on how effective we are at assessing ourselves and doing better in the areas that need additional work. Who can help us get better? Like what do you need to learn? What skills do you need to master? What changes do you need to make? Who can help you? If you're not able to do this on your own, and please don't beat yourself up if you're not able to do everything by yourself. Like, I remember when my first year working remotely from Italy after moving from the US, I hired someone to help me, just like give myself structure and accountability, because I had no idea what I was doing. So helpful. Um, and I learned so much, and I've changed as a person in, eh, permanently, because of the work that I did with the person who supported me, because I had the courage to reach out and say I need help, and it's totally fine, and you should not feel ashamed. Um, Growth and development opportunities are also really important. So, when you are working for yourself, when you're an entrepreneur or solopreneur running a small holistic health practice or a nutrition practice, you need to make sure that you have opportunities to grow and develop as a person and as a professional. So, what lights you up? Um, what kind of learning do you want to do? And when are you going to do that? um, how are you going to calendar in time to help you do the learning and even just the socializing and the interaction that you need to do with other professionals who are doing similar work, or who can help you grow, for example, in a mastermind group or in some other context where you can grow and shine as a professional and feel great as a whole person, feel understood. Some of the things that I do is I make time for Zoom calls with professionals that I really like and trust and respect. Um, they aren't all people in my exact same field of work. Some of, I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner. Some of the people that I talk to are fellow nutritional therapy practitioners. Others are um, naturopathic doctors, midwives, herbalists, acupuncturists, you name it, psychologists, and people that I really resonate with, and that help me um, shine and help me feel like I'm learning new things and getting stimulated. So that's really great, really important. continuing education, what courses do you want to take? I'm not saying take all the courses, like people go overboard. You want to be careful about not going overboard, but you also want to make sure that you're learning things on an ongoing basis. I personally think that we should not really take more than like 1 to 2 courses a year. I think that's just right for most of us. Um, does it light you up to go to conferences? Now, I know that with the pandemic raging, many of us are not traveling, and I have not gone to a conference. The last conference I went to was in September of 2019. I miss going to conferences. Right now, I'm not going to any, and that's okay. But when I'm able to go to a conference again, I'm very excited to start doing that. I'm not, it's not like my quality of life is poor because I'm not doing that right now. But it is something that I'm looking forward to doing later on when it is possible to enjoy travel again, um, and whatnot. So that is definitely on my list of things to come back to. So your list might be different. What lights you up as a person and as a professional, it may be a little bit different from what lights me up. And by the way, I should have added, I read a lot of articles, and I do read, a number of books on the topic of nutrition. I also like having reference books that are helpful and fairly comprehensive and up to date. Um, so, part of my personal and professional development as a holistic health practitioner is just having a library that I like. It's not like crazy in terms of like the number of books that I have. I really like books. I grew up in a house with a lot of books, and I remember one of our moves where we got help from someone who had a big tractor. And he weighed our books, and he was like, "You guys have 4 tons of books. That is a lot of books." Uh, I was told in grad school once by a very nice guy who was helping me carry boxes. He was like, don't know dude need that many books. And I was like, I do. But nonetheless, I have thinned my collection down over the years. I tried not to acquire and collect too many things, but just the things that I need in order to feel like I have a comprehensive, useful, and well organized, not overwhelming library. So that may or may not be on your to-do list. I love reading articles on PubMed. I read at least 1 or 2 per day. Sometimes not thoroughly, but I at least skim a couple of articles a day on PubMed. I find that really helpful. Anyway, that is what I do, and what you do may be a little bit different, but please do focus on all these 4 areas: work-life balance, proper remuneration, kind and fair self-assessment or evaluation, and growth and development opportunities. So these are really important for being a good boss to yourself. So just because you do not have an external employer does not mean that you don't deserve all of the accountability, structure, and rights and enjoyment that an employee should have. So you are your own employer and your own employee. It's a little bit awkward sometimes to be your own boss, but you should learn how to be a really good boss for yourself. I hope this was helpful for you, and if it was, stay tuned for other videos in this series. Thank you so much. Bye.